What's up guys, it's Mike. Welcome back to the channel. I got the M4 GT4 build behind me now with a 2.4 liter, 11,000 RPM S55 that I developed. So today, we're gonna go over a couple things on the engine build. I'll get some info for you guys. I also have a first drive video. The RPM was limited to 9,000 RPM and it was a base map. So for now on the dyno, I've actually got it turned up to 10,000. But I found a couple issues with some stuff. So on the dyno, I had like this really weird like oscillation or vibration, and I was able to narrow it down to an issue with the dyno. So I'll show you guys real quick what I found. There's a locking collar inside of here that actually holds this hub on the main shaft. So what I found was there is a tolerance difference between the hub and the input shaft itself. So a little bit of a wobble. So I was able to loosen the collar, turn it, retighten it. I did that a couple times, just kind of messed around with it, took a dial indicator, and I got it to work pretty good. But what I didn't know was I also had an issue on the car. So let me show you guys real quick. So after taking the car off the dyno, I went to put the right rear wheel on and I noticed some play. So immediately I thought, has to be a wheel bearing. And I'm actually gonna hold the camera here and just try and move the wheel, the dial indicator right there. I mean, I'm barely pushing on the wheel and you can just see how much play this thing has. I mean, it's enough to actually alter the toe in and toe out on the rear. And that's another thing. I ran a car at Laguna Seca like this and ran a 132 flat. A couple times going off the track, I would just check the toe in the back and I noticed it would be where I set it, which is about an 1/8 inch in, but it would move. So this is the reason why. I'm gonna put the car up on the lift and actually show you guys what happened, and it's literally insane. Check it out. All right guys, car's up on the lift. So I just went to inspect the right rear hub. Check this out. So holding the actual bearing onto the spindle here, there's 4 bolts. And I'm sure you guys are already seeing this. This bolt right here, look at that. They are freaking loose. I cannot believe it. So I haven't checked the other ones, but if it's enough to allow the wheel to move, that means that all 4 of these bolts holding the bearing hub on are loose. That is insane. You know, I can't even describe what kind of damage that could do. You can only imagine if those bolts sheared off, you would pretty much lose the entire right rear wheel hub assembly. It would be a disaster. Best case scenario, the wheel will just separate from the car. Worst case, the car could actually, tire can go underneath the car, you can catch air. I don't even want to think about it. What's even crazier though is, you know, I've never changed the wheel bearings. This car only has 40,000 miles on it. So this is all stock. Nothing has been altered. It's a clean title car. Nobody's changed the bearings on it. It shocks me that they came loose. Could be that the hub is slightly bent and the vibration causes it to come loose, but I don't know. So, but let me show you guys this really quick. So I'm gonna be taking these stock hubs off and replacing them with GT4 billet hubs right here. And also the bearings are Motorsport spec bearings. They're heavier duty and they can handle the abuse of the track a lot better. So you can get these at Bimmerworld, and they did a lot of testing and they are actually breaking the stock hubs. Here's a picture of that right here with one broken. Back to putting these on. So I'm gonna go ahead and get the stock ones off, put these on, and I have a feeling that between putting new bearings on that are actually tight and don't have 4 bolts that are loose and billet hubs, I'm not gonna be having any more vibration issues at all with this car. All right guys, before we fix this hub, I'm gonna show you some videos really quick. When I first drove it with the 2.4 liter 11K RPM development engine. and it's limited to 9,000 RPM, and this was on a base map. All right, guys, engine's warmed up. It's ready for the first run. So I'm gonna go ahead and mount this microphone right up here on the roll cage. Got a couple zip ties here. I'm just gonna zip tie it up. All right, all the studs are off, so I'm gonna loosen that axle nut. I'm gonna use the puller to go ahead and get that hub off. All right, guys, so I'm gonna reach around and spin this one. Let's see. See that moving? That's moving with just my fingers. And the other one over here, let's get to it. That one too. So both bottom bolts are loose. And I have a feeling the top ones are going to be barely tight as well. So definitely, if you're tracking your car, you need to check or just replace these bolts. And I would use some red thread locker just to be safe. So I'm going to continue getting that hub off. Yep. This one was loose. Just came right off also. Let's check this one. This one feels like it's still pretty snug. So we got one that's tight, 3 that are loose so far. All right, we're on the last one. Not very tight either. There it is. Well, that bearing does not feel very good. Actually, you can see the grease working its way out of the seal. So yeah, I think this bearing is definitely on its way out either way, but wow, having these loose, that is just insane. All right guys, so to get the new hub on, I'm gonna have to pull the spindle back and get this axle out because I need to have room to get a torque wrench behind here for those 4 bolts. So I'm gonna remove these 2 upper arms and see if it gives me enough room to pull this spindle back. All right guys, got the axle out of the spindle now. Ended up taking the sway bar end link off and the rear tow arm. Also the ABS sensor, I just didn't want to damage it. So now that we got this leaned back enough, you can actually see the bolts I need to get to. There are those 4. I can actually get a torque wrench back here. So we're gonna torque them to factory specs, and they are stretch bolts. So you have to do a certain Newton meter and then a certain amount of degrees. But I'm also gonna use red Loctite to make sure this does not loosen up again. So now we're gonna come back over here and I wanna show you the difference between these GT4 billet hubs and the stock M4 hub. So the nice thing about the billet ones, full circle centering ring to keep the rim and tire straight, especially when you're hitting curbs or high G corners, sweepers, etc. The stock one is not full circle, it's just got these tabs on it. And like I was mentioning to you guys, these are known to crack, and actually it usually cracks right where the studs go in, right in between here. So I'm really excited to get these off the car and just not have to worry about them failing. So I'm gonna go over to the press and press these new Motorsport bearings on here, just like that. And then we'll bring these hubs over, and then I'll start putting this right rear back together, and then rinse and repeat on the other side. Do the same thing. And we're good to go. She's pressed on. All right guys, so got the new hub. Now I'm just gonna put some red thread locker directly in the threads before I assemble it, and then torque it to BMW's factory specs. So, see right here. A little bit of red thread locker in each one. 80 Newton meters and 90 degrees. Okay, so I actually had to get my 1/2 inch torque wrench because my smaller 3H drive, I was hitting the torque limit on it. So these are pretty tight by the time you're done. I want to say like over 200 Newton meters by the time you do the 90 degrees. So I'm going to go ahead and finish it up, get them all turned to 90 degrees, and then we'll get everything back together. All right, they're torqued to 90, so we can start putting the axle back in here and get her all put back together. All right guys, everything is torqued down to spec. Also got the ABS wheel speed sensor back on here. Sway bars hooked back up, rear tow arm. So we're good to go. So I'm gonna go ahead and pull the axle in. If you guys don't have one of these tools, it is very, very helpful for putting axles on. I believe this is the right size. Yeah, so this actually threads into the axle and pulls it through the hub. You're gonna wanna thread this in at least, I'd say about 2 to 3 turns. You gotta make sure it's on the threads enough, because if not, you can pull some threads off the axle and that will ruin the axle. That should be good. And look at how easy that is. It just pulls the axle right onto the hub. All right, so the axle was pulled onto the hub. Now we're gonna torque the axle nut, and BMW calls out for 300 Newton meters on that. Studs are all tight. So before I put the rotor on, I'm actually gonna tighten up my e-brake a little bit because yeah, e-brake sucks in this thing. And even though it's a race car, I was on a hill one time and I really needed the e-brake and it still was rolling backwards even in gears. So I'm gonna go ahead and adjust it and tighten it up a little bit. It's pretty easy to do. There's an adjuster right there. I'm just gonna back that off a little bit. Take some tension off the spring. Should be able to turn it. And yeah, let's go this way with it. A little too much. I'm just gonna loosen it a little bit. We're good. Perfect. All right. That's it. So now the GT4 hubs are on, and I just have to go to the other side and do the exact same thing. All right, guys, that pretty much wraps up today's video. A couple other changes I'm gonna do to this car. It does have an external wastegate on it, open dump, and it's just too loud. It's probably 120 decibels or something like that. So I'm gonna switch it to recirculated. So I'm gonna take the open dump, recirculate it in the downpipe, and that way I can pass sound limits of tracks, because right now there's no way. Unfortunately, California, it's usually 95 to 105 decibel. So once I do that, I'm gonna take it out on the street. We'll get some videos going to 10,000 RPM, and it's going to be nuts. Like, I can't wait to show you guys. Also, another thing too. So I'm gonna get some videos for you guys on this car. So this M240i 6MT manual V58, and it has the first 4N bottom mount equal length single turbo setup on it. And it's actually amazing how much room there is over here on the side next to the frame rail. This thing sounds wicked. I've got a 3.5 straight pipe going out the back, single exit. So next clip, you guys will see this car. I'll start getting some good sound clips for you guys. And yeah, looking forward to it.